Ready? Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Laura and this is Aidan, and we've been running an online digital marketing agency for the last 4 years. Working remotely has allowed us to travel to some incredible places for extended periods of time, including Europe, Asia, and Mexico, all whilst running and growing the business.
Running a business whilst traveling the world sounds like a dream, right? Well, we've faced our fair share of challenges and made a few mistakes along the way. So in this video, we're going to go through the things no one tells you about being a digital nomad.
So we're here to share our experiences, shed some light on what worked and what didn't, so that you can avoid some of the pitfalls that we stumbled into. So the first thing we learn is that it's definitely not all beaches and sunsets. And what I mean by that is it's very, very easy to get distracted, especially when you are arriving in a beautiful new destination you've never visited before. However, when you are working for yourself and you're working remotely, you do have to make sure that you stay on task, stay on track, so that things can be moving the needle forward.
Yeah, and a big one for us has been just the time zones, basically like doing night shift. So you'd end up taking calls very late in the evening, and then you'd get up in the morning to take calls very early in the morning. You wouldn't get much sleep, especially if you weren't planning it out very well. So that is definitely a really big challenge. And there's certain time zones that may not be ideal depending on the type of business that you're running. And that's a consideration that has to come into things when you are planning on trying to work remotely, live overseas, etc.
And although you are in these really beautiful destinations as well, I think it's important to realize that there are still deadlines, there's still people you have to answer to, clients you have to kind of always be around for as well. So you can't just be off exploring all day, every day. The work definitely has to be there to be able to, of course, fund those amazing experiences that you have as well. So nothing changes there in the sense of the responsibility that you have. And if anything, just because of those time zone differences, you actually do need to be more on track of where you're at with everything, exactly what time things are meant to be done, so that you can make sure that you're scheduling that into your day so that you do actually have that off time to be able to explore that incredible place that you're in as well.
Yeah, and really having a consistent work environment generally is conducive to being more productive and getting more done and achieving more when it comes to business or work. So it is hard if you're moving around a lot, you're switching contexts, you're never really able to get into a proper routine. So I think that, you know, having a set base, which is probably moving forward for us, would be having a set base that we're working from, and then, you know, we can do small weekend trips, and during the week, you know, it's much more stable and can just focus type of thing.
Yeah, we did that a little bit more when we were in Mexico, right? We kind of stayed there for like a 7 week period and just kind of did some weekend trips in and around Puerto Vallarta near where we were staying, and that worked a lot better than when we were, for example, in Iceland for just a week and going 1 night or 2 nights in each hotels as well. So although yes, you have the flexibility when you're a digital nomad, and yes, granted, we have spent some amazing days on beautiful beaches, it's definitely not the whole of it. And I think, Aidan, you always laugh as well about these photos of people that are on their laptops on the beaches, because it's just not practical.
You get a bit of glare doing that, but I don't think it's ideal. And yeah, like I think even, you know, 7 weeks isn't really long enough. You really want, you know, 3 months, 6 months set. I mean, depends what you're doing and what your priority is, but, you know, I guess when I look at it, it's definitely, you know, I like to be making progress, and you need to make your life as easy as possible to do that. The you know, not so glamorous side of digital nomading is really you're kind of always working no matter where you go. Whereas sometimes if you really have a set vacation and you're not working at all whilst you're there, there's a bit more disconnect, and then you can go back to going through a work period. So I think, you know, when you kind of blend them together, you definitely run into some challenges, let's say.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I don't feel like people talk about enough, because there is this online kind of view of digital nomads just being able to do a couple of hours here and then go off and spend all day at the beach, and potentially there are people that do that, but it definitely wasn't the case for us when we're trying to grow the business and also, like Aidan, manage a big team as well. So yes, definitely something to keep in mind if you are wanting to scale your business whilst traveling at the same time.
The second big thing that no one really tells you about is that you're going to need a lot of patience. The Wi-Fi can be spotty, the accommodation may not come as advertised, and there's a seemingly never-ending customs line. And the first thing for work purposes is the internet, right? Like we need to have good internet, we need to have fast internet, be able to connect to Zoom calls if you're taking meetings. When you're in a new country and you first arrive, you need to be able to connect and get some sort of SIM. A really big lifesaver for us has been getting an eSIM where we can just purchase a specific eSIM for that particular country, and there's different apps that do this. I think we were using Red T Go. There's a few different options. You know, you have to be very prepared when it comes to travel to do it the right way if you're wanting to run a business.
Yeah, and especially when you're in new places with people that speak different languages, and maybe there's different cultures involved as well. The patience extends to the people that you're going to be interacting with, whether that is at the airport or when you're getting taxis or when you are going to hotels or accommodation as well. So definitely having patience is one side of it when it comes to people and the internet. One thing that we've found works particularly well is when we are looking at staying somewhere that's a little bit more long term, or we know that we're going to be working there for majority of the time we'll be there, is I'll actually even message the host on Airbnb or booking.com and ask them what their internet speeds are. So don't be afraid to do that. People are often very receptive to it, particularly with more digital nomads working and traveling at the same time. So that's definitely something that has helped us pick what destinations are going to be best to avoid as much as possible those Wi-Fi issues. And also having a VPN can be really, really, well, essential, to be honest with you, when you're going to be using public Wi-Fi. There's lots of risks out there, unfortunately. So particularly when you are running a business or dealing with client information, having a VPN when you are using these public Wi-Fis is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, and if you're taking meetings and Zoom calls and things like that as well, when you're booking accommodation, you need to be considering where's the workspace, what kind of lighting do I have so I can look professional? Is it noisy in that where I am? Like all of these come into consideration to make sure you can actually properly operate something in a very professional manner whilst traveling, and some of the challenges that we have had in trying to even select specific places where we can both work and both take calls at the same time. That's something that comes into consideration too.
Yeah, you have to have patience even when you're looking for those accommodations, because I know myself when I'm doing that, I pretty much look through every single listing that they have on Airbnb or booking.com, going through every single photo that's there to make sure, one, there's surfaces that we can both work on, and two, that there's a door that separates us if we're going to be working and taking calls at the same time. So that's obviously going to be different for everyone. If you're on your own, you might not have to worry as much about that, but definitely choosing somewhere where you can look professional, be professional, there's not too much background noise. If it's a private conversation, you're not in a busy cafe, taking those calls as well can definitely help make your productivity better, but also just improve the experience for your clients and help grow your business positively too.
Everything you do has to be done for the purpose of making your life as easy as possible if you are going to be doing a lot of travels. So you've already pre-prepared, you've got batteries charged, you've got cameras charged, your laptop's ready to go, you have a source of internet or a backup for if things don't go right, you have headphones or noise cancelling headphones. All of these things are things we've had to often learn the hard way when it came to traveling and figuring out the best way to do it so we weren't constantly stressed, which has definitely come into the equation, more than a handful of times.
Yeah, I think patience definitely one thing, but what you can learn from that is also being prepared can avoid a lot of those mishaps, and just even increase your patience because you know that you can rely on yourself. So the third thing is that you're gonna have to be super disciplined. And what I mean by that is when you are away and you're working on your own terms, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'm my own boss, I can work when I want, I can stop whenever I want, but actually that's not doing good for anybody. So what you actually end up doing is just procrastinating a lot of the day and having to catch up late at night. So having a set routine can be really helpful in just helping you stay disciplined whilst you're working away as a digital nomad.
Big thing for us as well, because we value our health and fitness and making sure that we're scheduling into our calendar the times we're actually going to go to the gym, or we're going to work out, or we're going to do things so we can actually get exercise in whilst we're traveling, so it doesn't just get left by the wayside. You know, if we don't stick to a schedule and we're, you know, sightsee for 2 hours and then we end up working late into the night and then we don't go to the gym, that's going to be a bit of an issue. Obviously not in one day, but if we continue doing that day in, day out, we don't start having a scheduled routine week in, week out, we're not going to get those important things done, like going to the gym and looking after our health as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that we did differently. For example, the second time we went on a bit of a longer trip as digital nomads, or whilst we were working, compared to the first time, is we did just, before we went away, just time blocked a lot more. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be completely time blocked into exactly what tasks you're doing, although that does help on a day-to-day basis so that you can make sure you are getting through those tasks or meetings that you need to achieve that day. But looking at it more of a long-term thing, just being able to block out, okay, Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday, or whenever those work hours look for you, I'm going to be working between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. because that works with the time zone that my clients are on, or that I need to be speaking to people on a different time zone, and then being able to block out those times that, one, you're not going to be taking calls, so that you can either sleep, you can do those things that you value a lot, such as for us going to the gym, Aidan doing jiu-jitsu as well, or even just like socializing or being able to enjoy those amazing places that you're visiting as well. So that's been an absolute game changer for us. And also being able to block out those travel periods as well. So you're accounting for the travel time in between the airports and checking in, and being able to prepare for things such as getting like the Wi-Fi passwords and all that jazz, so that you're not left in a sticky situation where you're meant to be on a call or meant to be speaking to somebody and you're stuck in traffic in a busy city where you have no internet. So yeah, those sorts of things can definitely help you stay disciplined and just on track to be able to be super productive with your days.
Another thing that you may not realize if you're looking to pick up kind of some sort of digital nomad lifestyle, or you want to work remotely in any way, shape or form, is you may think it's going to be a very cheap endeavor, where the reality is that it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than you think, especially to go to the places you want to go to, do the activities that you want to be doing. So it can actually get quite expensive, especially if you're coming in thinking it's going to be some sort of budget endeavor. That certainly isn't the case, but of course that's going to vary depending on the location as well.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of these videos or Instagram stories, like backpackers who are digital nomads and staying in hostels and working out of cafes and saving all this money. And yes, it definitely can happen, or that is the case for some people, but for us, we just found that that was never gonna work. So of course, with some of the preferences that we've found to, one, be able to allow us to work as productively as possible, but two, just be comfortable and also enjoy the experience a lot more, has made it a little bit more expensive than maybe what we've seen on other videos and stuff online. But we're happy to pay that because it's something that's super important to us, that we're able to be in our own space, have great access to internet, look professional in front of our clients as well. So yeah, that's definitely something that will be a personal factor, but I would really recommend taking it into deep consideration before going away, exactly kind of what your budget might allow you to do, and if there is the opportunity to stretch it a little bit to be able to have a bit more of a comfortable working environment, but also just living environment whilst you're in these, particularly when you get to a new country and it's somewhere that you've never been before, you don't know anyone, and potentially you're there on your own. You want to be as comfortable as possible, because if you have that little bit of comfort in those sense, then it's going to just make the whole experience a lot more natural and a lot easier when you've got a lot of uncomfortable things put into the equation as well.
Yeah, because saving a penny to miss out on a pound isn't very wise. So having a good work setup, being able to work super productively and remove the barriers to doing so is going to enable you to have even more success, which ultimately allows you to actually travel longer if that's what you want to be doing, right?
Well, often a lot of the time, if you are able to be a digital nomad, particularly if you are working for yourself, whether that's freelance or managing an agency or growing a business, is that you have that uncapped potential for earning. So if you can make that environment as comfortable as possible, it's going to make you want to work more and work harder to be able to expand your income even more as well. So it's definitely something that's worth taking into consideration. It also is going to depend on exactly the destination that you're going to be choosing when you're traveling and working at the same time as well. I know for us, we've done a real mixture of places with different budgets. So for example, when we were in Mexico, that was obviously a lot more affordable. We were able to live in a bit more luxury. We were eating out every day, and that was definitely something that was more affordable or more of a budget place, I would say. However, we've spent time working in places like Iceland, which is definitely a lot more expensive, and Dubai is of course more expensive when you take into the equation how much food and drink is there as well. Definitely something to consider, and potentially looking at different options in Eastern Europe or Asia or South America if you are going to be a little bit more on a budget side of things as well.
And a big thing, and again, it kind of goes back to my point earlier about making sure you have a set base so you can be as productive as possible. One thing that will also make it cheaper will just be having a longer term rental. So maybe when you first get in the destination, get a Airbnb for a couple of weeks, and then in those 2 weeks, find a longer term place that you can stay for a few months, maybe 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, depending on visas and things like that. That's also going to probably reduce the expenditure massively.
Yeah, I'd say that we know from experience and what we're looking at the moment in terms of our next destination that we're going to be going to, that you can join Facebook groups and ones where you can have like a whole place to yourself, or you can rent a room in a house with other people if you're doing it on your own as well. And these can be a lot cheaper than if you're going on Airbnb and booking.com. But I also think that once you're there, you will just meet people that will be able to help you with these opportunities that come up, and you're going to be able to find something that's a lot better and also a lot more cost effective for you as well. So definitely something that I would say to organize when you're there, and just have like a comfortable base when you arrive to be able to look for that opportunity too. The next thing to take into consideration is at times it can be a little bit lonely. And what I mean by that is you're going to be going to some new places with lots of people you've never met before. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable and all the time is going to put you out of your comfort zone. So we're pretty lucky that, of course, we've had each other. So that's been a great thing, and maybe something to consider if it is your first time or you're feeling a little bit nervous. Potentially there's somebody else that you might be able to go with as well. But if you are going to be going completely on your own, or you're moving to a new country, you're just going to have to put yourself out there a little bit more and get comfortable being uncomfortable.
So when I was traveling, for instance, I joined a couple different BJJ gyms where I could do my jiu-jitsu, and obviously that's a way to kind of meet people or associate a bit more with the locals. So getting in different community groups or sporting clubs, things like that. There's also expat communities like Facebook and stuff, which is probably something next trip we'll probably try to find more like-minded people doing similar things, or spend more time trying to branch out a little bit outside of kind of our comfort zone too. But they're a few of the things that have worked for us.
Yeah, I think particularly for myself, when I moved from the UK to Australia, I used Facebook as a tool. There's Irish around Sydney, different kind of communities that people are posting about, different events that are going on. So I think just being able to kind of join something that resonates with you, that you're gonna find other people that are also interested in those things, is a really great way just to be able to meet other people and build your network. Also, if you are going to be a digital nomad, which I'm guessing may be the reason that you're watching this video, even consider going and joining a co-working space as well, because they are perfect to be able to meet other digital nomads, freelancers, business owners that are also doing the exact same thing as you, but there's a lot of kind of after work events that they put on, or sporting events or night out events, things that are just gonna help bring people together so that you don't feel as lonely whilst you're over there as well.
The last point, and I don't feel like this is necessarily just the case when you're traveling or you're working abroad, but the reality of running a business or doing anything on your own is the work is never going to be complete. And that couldn't be more true than when you're actually traveling, because you're trying to do different things or see different places. You're also trying to keep on top of the work, trying to progress, which can be harder, especially if you're moving around a lot. Like, you almost feel like, it's hard to progress. So you really need to look at how you would treat work, whether at home or abroad, and the things that would normally lead to success at home versus abroad, they're going to be the same thing, right? So when you run your own type of business or do anything for yourself, the work isn't ever going to be complete, but you may even get further behind if you're not managing this stuff well, or you prioritize the wrong things. So really that comes down to like your preference and where your priority is. Is it still growing the business, or is it just maybe a short period of time where it is just about exploring as much as possible and then kind of maintaining what's going on in what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing with that is just not giving in to external pressures. Very easy for people to look at what you're doing, whether that's people in the experience or people that have never done that before, for example, family, friends that have never been in that scenario, for them to say, oh, you're in this country, you should be doing this, or you shouldn't spend all your time working. But it's actually just comes down to what's important to you and what you want to be spending your time doing, or what you should be spending your time doing, should I say so, because of course you're not always going to want to in that moment spend your time doing that extra work or finishing those extra tasks. But it's all about prioritization and just knowing what's important for you in that moment and what's going to help you get to that next level to allow you to have more of that freedom eventually as well.
Yeah, FOMO is a no-go. Like, don't have FOMO. That's really dumb. You need to just do what you need to do, because at the end of the day, to be able to have the kind of experience that we have had, like, there's obviously a certain trade that you have to make. Like, this is what's enabled us to be able to travel and make money whilst traveling and do reasonably well for ourselves, is the fact that we're very consistent. We do what needs to be done no matter what. When you build that life for yourself, you can't neglect the things that are giving you that life, right? Like, they're the features, like these things, like having to take sales calls whilst you're away if that's what's necessary. These are the things, these are features, they're not bugs. Like, you have to do those things to be able to do the things you want to do. At least for myself personally, I would make that trade every day of the week, because I know that one day I'll look back and be like, I'm so glad that I did the things that other people didn't do, and that was why I was able to live an amazing life, that was true to myself, because I think that's the big thing. Live a life that's true to yourself, and if the people around you are telling you you should be doing something a specific way, but they're not living the life you necessarily want, then that's where your own intuition kind of comes in as well.
Yeah, and I think circling back to that point where your work's never gonna feel complete.
Going in circles.
One, no matter where you are in the world, it's still you, so there's still going to be the same responsibilities. It's not like you get on a plane and all those responsibilities go away like some people seem to think. You still need to be available at the same time, whether that's for your clients, whether it's for your team, even if it's just for your own accountability to be able to achieve those things that you want to be achieving. And you need to be prepared that you are going to have times where you're going to be answering your phone or answering emails when you're out for dinner, or you're taking an afternoon to go and do sightseeing, but it's all part of the experience. And yeah, it is part of the feature of being able to go away. And I think the thing is, you can just look at that as a positive. Like, I get to do my work whilst I'm traveling, as opposed to I have to do my work whilst I'm traveling. So there you have it. There's the things that no one really tells you when you become a digital nomad. And although there's of course going to be challenges along the way, I definitely wouldn't change the experience at all. Let us know in the comments below if you've experienced any of these things yourself as a digital nomad, and if if you've liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos. See you soon.